Hi there, I'm Terri Suresh with The Wellness Curve. I am a nurse practitioner and CEO of Hormonal Health, Wellness, and Skin Centers here in the DFW Metroplex. One of my biggest passions is sharing any kind of education with my audience, whether it's live, on television, in print, ways that we can be healthy. And that's not just healthy physical health, that's mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and relationship health. Relationship health is key. So today, my guest, that is her big genre, is relationship health. Andrea Jones is the relationship coach. I've known Andrea for a couple of years now, and she has been an amazing gift to my life and to my patients' life. What we find is I balance hormones and I get people feeling healthy on one side, but they still have a lot of unhealthy communication styles with their partners, whether that's at home, their family, their business partners, their spouses, whatever that is. So I brought Andrea here to share a little bit about herself and about what she does and how it can help you in your relationship health. So welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise. I've enjoyed so much just watching you blossom into this role of the relationship coach, and some people call you the modern day Dr. Ruth because you speak to intimacy in relationships and gender communication. But before we get into all that, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you can tell, I have an accent. I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the States 12 and a half years ago, and I'm a mother of 8. I gave birth to 4. I have twins in there too. And then I'm the stepmother to 4 more kids. I have 8 kids.
Wow. It's like the Brady Bunch at your house.
Yes, very much so. We have 3 boys at the age of 8, so
wow.
Very busy. And I'm also happily married, so I have it all.
That's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit. I know when you lived in Germany, you worked mostly in the male-dominated field, so that has a lot to do with where you are today. But let's talk about your time in Germany and how did this evolve to come into teaching people gender communication?
Yeah, I think everything happens for a reason, and it made a full circle. When I finished high school, I wanted to go to college. College is a little different over there, so I wanted to go to college. And in Europe, it's common to go do an apprenticeship. That's what it's called. At a company where you work and study at the same time. So I did that, and while I was there, they voted me into an executive leadership program with that bank, and I found out later I was the only woman that has ever been elected into that program. So that was the first new thing for me, to be the only woman.
So that was a cue to you that maybe you're doing something different that other women weren't?
Other women did, yes.
Okay.
I thought maybe I'm more determined than others, have a more set goal than others, but that was the beginning. When I finished with that program in college, then I worked for a professional basketball team, and I became the business manager for a male professional basketball team.
Okay, now talk about that, because that's pretty impressive. I don't know, are there very many female business managers for professional teams, or how does that work?
Again, I didn't know. I was asked to take over that position, and I always loved sports. I did professional sports myself when I was younger, so I thought, well, I'll just give it a try, and I did. And then again, I found out later that I was the first woman in the entire Europe that was the business manager for a professional basketball team. So
you found all this after the fact. It wasn't very intimidating because you were already in the role, you felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, how was that? What did you do? I mean, I not necessarily get into what does a business manager do, but how did your interaction with the players and the men on the team, and how was that, and how did that develop to what you're doing today?
Well, I think what I never did is I never gave up being a woman. And that made a big difference, because I didn't try to become a man in this man's world with other men. I always stayed close to be true to myself, to be a woman. So I brought female qualities to that basketball team. And years later, when I left the basketball team, they still said, I wish you were here, or we wish you were here, because the female touch to this entire very professional sports world was kind of gone when I left, just because of the female qualities.
Well, what, like an example, I know you're not talking about bringing flowers into
no,
so
it's just we as women, we care more about others, and you can be in professional sports and corporate America, but you can still care about others and show that care. And I was very involved not only with the player, but I was also very involved with the family of the player. The player was happy. That's great, but if the wife, who came from another country, maybe didn't speak the language, wasn't happy, the player was not happy. So I made sure the family is happy, the wife is happy. One time I remember I had to go to, back then, Serbia. There was a war in Serbia. One of the players, his fiancée, was in Serbia, and they wouldn't give her a visa. So I traveled by myself, had to fly to another country, cross the border by foot, go over
Wow.
there to the German embassy in Serbia to get that player's fiancé out of there. So that's not a normal thing to do for a business manager.
Right.
However, we knew there was a key player on our team, and without his fiancé there, he would have not played as well. And so up to this day, they're still thankful and everything else. So that's just different things that you wouldn't think about they are necessary. But that team, we were a team with a very small budget, but we were hugely successful. And I contribute that to just being different, making different decisions.
You making different decisions.
And
How
others.
well were you received in the beginning when you got into this role?
It was funny because we had a team teams in Italy that we played with, and you might know Andrea, my name, is in Italy a male name.
Correct.
So when I sent, back then we sent faxes, so it was a while back, we sent faxes to Italy and made arrangements for other teams coming. I signed with my name, and then I said Andrea, and then they always wrote back, dear sir. But I was a female. So when
So
they
it worked to your favor till they...
Then when they met me at the airport, they're always shocked and said, where's Andrea? It's like, that's me, and they're always shocked that a woman would have that.
So once you got past that initial shock, you were well received,
Yes.
and they, didn't really have much
No.
issue, and the players received you well
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
What about coaches and some of the other? Did you ever have any butting heads? Everybody was.
No, not really, because it's just.
Is that something I would expect in the States and not so much in Europe? Maybe I don't know.
No, it's just. I think because I stayed a woman. I didn't try to become a man, compete with them on a male level. I was a woman in a man's world, but I didn't become a man.
And staying a woman is one of the key things that Andrea really points to in her education. It's a really important concept, and what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean, flowers and frilly, et cetera, et cetera. It means a lot more than that. So stick around with me, and we'll find out a little bit more about what Andrea does and what staying a woman means. We'll be right back.